Good evening, everyone. Today is May 12th. This is a regularly scheduled City Council meeting. Could we all please rise and begin the meeting with the prayer? Dear God, today as the session opens, we pray that your presence will be before us and everyone who serves in the decision-making process of our city. We pray for direction which will lead our city to be strong and unified. May we continue the legacy of our founders. May we be granted this day the wisdom to make decisions which will be for the good of our city. We also pray for your special blessing on all those who are working to transform our city and make it a better place to live and work. Amen. Could we now please salute the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Could the clerk please kindly call the roll?
Counsel Mercia. Counsel Milanazzo.
Here.
Counsel Rourke.
Here.
Counsel Samaras.
Here.
Counsel Belanger.
Here.
Mayor Elliott.
Here.
Counsel Kennedy.
Here.
Counsel Leahy. Counsel Martin.
Here.
7 present.
7 present. Let us report that Council Mercia is doing well. She's doing better. And on the mend, Council Belanger spoke with her, and I've been texting her as well. So we wish you well, Council Mercia, if you're at home. I know she's watching. So with that, Chair would like to. Nope, you all set, Councilor Milanazzo? Okay, we'll proceed. We'll proceed right into the City Clerk portion of the agenda. We have minutes of the City Council meeting, May 5th. We also have minutes of the Substance Abuse Subcommittee of May 5th for acceptance. Discussion on any of these items? Motion by Council Kennedy, seconded by Council Belanger, to accept these minutes as presented and placed on file. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed, minutes are accepted. We move on to 1.2, there's a vote to reappoint Michael Q. Geary to the City Clerk and establish a salary. This requires 2 readings. That will be the first reading. Council Kennedy, did you want to come, once we read the second reading, go into the subcommittee, or would you prefer to hold this vote till the subcommittee?
Well, let's do the second reading, and then I'll...
Okay. So the second reading, Commonwealth of Massachusetts and City Council is a vote reappointing Michael Q. Geary to the position of City Clerk and establishing a salary in the City of Lowell. It is voted by the City Council of the City of Lowell to reappoint Michael Geary to the position of City Clerk. Said appointment to be effective Tuesday, January 6, 2015. Mr. Geary's salary be established from the date of appointment to a dollar figure and a level that will come forward in the Personnel Subcommittee recommendation, a salary tier system ordinance for the department heads and confidential employees. Mr. Geary, his appointment shall be for a term of 3 years.
Mr. Mayor.
Chair, I'd like to recognize Chairman of Personnel, Council Kennedy.
If there's no objection, if we could take up 6.1 at this simultaneously, I guess that...
No objection. We'll proceed to Section 6.1 and bring in the subcommittee report for personnel, auditor and clerk oversight subcommittee meeting that was held just prior to the City Council meeting. Chair would like to recognize the chairman of that subcommittee, Chairman Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you've already said, the City Council Subcommittee for the Auditor and Clerk Oversight met at 5 o'clock this evening to review the City Clerk's salary, which is currently set at grade 3, step 7, which is the highest step. And the subcommittee, by a majority vote, is recommending that the clerk's salary be moved to grade 2, step 4. However, Mr. Mayor, I think that given that the city clerk is an employee of the City Council, that it's important that there be a full complement of the City Council here when we do this vote. And since there are 2 members that are absent this evening, I would move that we put this off for 1 week.
Motion by Council Kennedy, second by Council Milanazzo, to delay taking action on this vote, on this recommendation to move the clerk from his current step grade to grade 2, step 4, right? I don't think we need roll call on that, Mr. Clerk?
I can't give you one.
No, I think we're just delaying the vote, so it doesn't require a roll call. All those in favor of that motion of delaying 1 week, Counselor? 1 week, signify by saying aye. In the opposed, motion passes. We'll delay this for 1 week and put it back on the agenda. Moving on to the next item on, Counselor, anything else on that Personnel Subcommittee? We'll accept that report as a report of progress if not.
That's actually a complete report. I mean, there was quite a bit of discussion. There were, in addition to the 3 members of the subcommittee, Council Milanazzo and Council Belanger and yourself were also in attendance. But basically, that's what the recommendation is what was discussed.
Okay. Motion to accept the report as a report of progress and placed on file by Councilor Martin, seconded by Councilor Milanazzo. All those in favor signify by saying aye. In the opposed, motion passes. Next item on the agenda, we have general public hearing as well as utility public hearing. Utility public hearings, there's 2 of them. Those are scheduled for 7 p.m., so we will hold off on those and move on the agenda. We have communications from the city manager. We have motion responses A, B, A, and B. So why don't we proceed? Questions, concerns on motion response A, which is a committee to plan a major art festival in the city. Further questions, discussion on that? Council Belanger?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There was a very productive meeting in late April regarding a very large-scale festival involving all the artists within the city that would, a nice outdoor street closing event, if you will, that we're looking to have. And the input from the artists is that they wanted adequate time to make this largely successful. So if that is their request, then we will grant that. But through you to the manager, has anything been set yet? Is it next spring or next fall, Mr. Manager? Do we have a definite date yet?
Thank you. If I could have Ms. Salter.
We just happen to have Ms. Halter here.
We had a first meeting to talk about what the art festival might look like, and I think the plan is to set the date at the next meeting. They're talking about next, initially the idea was next fall, I think? Not this fall, next fall.
Okay.
A year.
Susan, would you mind kind of elaborating a little for the folks at home, the large scale of this, what we're hoping it's going to evolve into, if you don't mind?
Well, it's interesting. I actually gave something to Councilor Samaras, which I'm happy to send to all of you about some of the festivals that we were looking at. The initial discussion was, what is this going to look like? Because I think in the model that you had pointed out, Councilor Samaras, was more of a street festival, art tents, not unsimilar to what we've done on a small scale here in Lowell with food. Can I pass this to you to give you a lookie? And then I'll make sure that everybody gets that.
So Susan, when I had filed the motion as well, along with Council Samaras, the thought was to close down streets and have just a very large art festival to show the artists that they can come out and showcase their work. Considering how many artists we have in the city, is that still?
That's definitely one component of it, but I think that the people who are interested in putting this on and participating as the planning committee want to include all the arts. They want theater, they want dance, they want spoken word art, they want youth, they want the maker spaces to have some access to this event. So we looked at bigger events where there's all kinds of stuff going on at the same place, sometimes at different stages. So the question is, how much can we take on the first year, and do we start with a smaller footprint that might be focused more on visual and theater arts, and then build that from year to year?
Excellent, Susan, thank you. This is very all-inclusive. We're going to have all the art under one roof.
There's a lot of exciting
It's very,
stuff.
very exciting, so
Yeah.
let us know what we can do to assist this. We're looking forward to it. Thank you.
Okay, well, anybody who wants to be on the committee, we're looking for names.
Sounds good. That sounds good. We'll get you some names. Council Samaras?
Thank you, Mayor Elliott. Thank you, Susan. I mean, this is a good report. I mean, you talk about the mission, the goals, you decide who will be included, or you talk about who will be included, but you really defined all the possibilities, and I think that's wonderful. But I'd like to suggest that perhaps you give us a quarterly report to the city council, or maybe the subcommittee of the arts, so we can make sure that we're aware of what you're trying to do and what you might need. Because I know this is a big venture, the potential is wonderful, but at some point you might need more help. And I think this, by keeping the city council updated with what's been going on and what your needs are, we'll be better able to react and be supportive.
Sure, I'm happy to share the minutes from the meetings as we have them, so that you know even more frequently than quarterly, hopefully.
Perfect, thank you very much.
Thank you. Further question, discussion on this item? I know that the Arts and Culture Subcommittee has also discussed this and entertained this motions. Mr. Manager, all set? Great, thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Thanks.
Susan.
Have a good
Look
night.
forward. And again, any individuals interested in serving on this committee, contact Susan Halter at Cool. Next item there is motion responses B. Any questions, concerns on response B, which is security policies in the parking garages? Council Samaras?
Thank you. I want to thank Mr. Troop for an excellent report. As I stated previously, I mean, there has been a concern, Mr. Troop, you available? There has been a concern about, is there assistance in the garage? And of course, this outline certainly talks about security is available to walk people to their car. And you've talked about the lighting being improved, and you talked about the signage. Could you just give an overview of what's happening? I think the people of Lowell would like to hear this. I think this is welcome news.
Yeah, sure. I think the most important thing that we need to get across is actually the bottom line of our report, and the parking department is proud to report that the garages are very safe. The U.S. Security, who holds the contract for the services in the garages, they provide 24/7 security at all of the garages. The GPO at night is stationed out of the AOT garage, and that's the one that's not a particular staffed, but there is somebody at that garage 24/7. All the other garages 24/7. Insofar as the signage, I know it wasn't part of the report, but I'm happy to share this with the City Council, a sample of the signage that's at all of the key points of the garages. Councilor, if I can hand that to you to share. At the key points that notify our customers that they can call the security guard on duty or the dispatch office to get a security escort to their car. Also, if there's a particular issue, and it rings right to the guard on duty. So very responsive, very proactive security staff, and one that we're very happy with. Insofar as the lighting, people will see that we have improved the lighting over at the Leo Roy garage. The foot candles in the garages have doubled, and they burn at half of the wattage, so we should be seeing some definite savings very soon. That project was so successful that we are looking to expedite 2 more locations for these security upgrades with better lighting at no expense, really, at energy savings. And those 2 locations have been targeted at the Davidson lot, should be done by the end of this month. And we're looking at the AOT garage as having a full lighting upgrade before the end of this fiscal year.
This works. No, thank you for that information. It's very important. Thank you. And I want to apologize to the city manager should have gone through the city manager. I do apologize, but it was a great report, and this is information that I think our people in the city need to know, that these type of upgrades are happening. Thank you.
Okay, further discussion on motion responses, Council Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to say, I think this was a real good motion, and I think it's a good service. I'm happy that you're doing it. The only, if I could make one suggestion, it's that you work a little bit on that sign. Just so that, I think it's not quite clear. You'd almost think that, well, if you dial that number, then you might have to wait like a certain amount of time. And so I think it would be good if somehow you can communicate that the escort's right there in the garage and available on a pretty immediate basis. And aside from that, I think it's great. Thank you.
Thank you, Council. Further discussion on these motion responses? Seeing none, motion to accept the responses, accept them and place them on file by Council Rourke, seconded by Council Samaras. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed, motion passes. Still not 7 o'clock, so we'll proceed with the agenda. Next item is a communication from the city manager. It's a reappointment of Vincenzo Milanazzo and Sue Ellen O'Neill to the City Council on Aging. Entertain a motion to approve by Councilor Belanger, seconded by Councilor Kennedy. Roll call.
Council Mercia. Council Milonazo.
Yes.
Council Rourke.
Yes.
Council Samaras.
Yes.
Council Belanger.
Yes.
Mayor Elliott.
Yes.
Council Kennedy.
Yes.
Council Leahy. Council Martin.
Yes.
7 yeas.
Next item is another communication to appoint Brian Toner and Jeffrey McDonough to the Conservation Commission from the city manager pursuant to the authority vested in me as city manager under Mass General Law, Chapter 40, Section 8. It is with pleasure that I am appointing the following persons to the Conservation Commission: Jeffrey McDonough of 15 Bottom Terrace, Brian Toner of 14 Mount Washington Street. Since under the above referenced statute, confirmation by the council is not required for this appointment, this letter is notification of such. I'd be happy to answer any inquiry you may have concerning this appointment. Attached are, excuse me, the resumes. Discussion on this item, entertain a motion to approve by Councilor Kennedy.
Place on file.
Motion by Councilor Kennedy to accept the communication and place on file, second by Councilor Martin. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed, that motion carries. Mr. Manager?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Council, for approving these two appointments. I'd like to introduce them to you. Just come up and introduce yourself to the City Council. First, Brian Toner.
Hi, I'm a UMass Law student for Civil and Environmental Engineering. I think I'd be a great fit on the Conservation Committee. It's right up my alley, and I'm currently doing surveying work, which kind of goes hand in hand with all that. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Brian. We appreciate your service.
And then Jeffrey McDonough.
Hi, Jeff McDonough. Excuse me. I'm a lifelong resident of Lowell and a teacher at Lowell High School. Nice to meet you. Currently a resident of Pawtuckaville.
Well, good. Well, thank you. Nice to meet you. Glad to hear you're a resident of Pawtuckaville, for sure. That's a bonus for some of us here, but thank you. We appreciate both of you for applying and volunteering to serve on the Conservation Commission. Clearly, it performs very important delegated important statutory authority to protect open space and so many other facets. So we thank you for your service. Moving on to the next item, we have another communication from the city manager. This is a request for out-of-state travel for 3 members of the Lowell Police Department, 1 member of the Lowell Fire Department, 1 member of the Lowell Health Department. Discussion on these requests for out-of-state travel. Seeing a motion to approve by Councilor Milonazo, second by Councilor Rourke. Roll call.
Council Mercia. Council Milonazo.
Yes.
Council Rourke.
Yes.
Council Samaras.
Yes.
Council Belanger.
Yes.
Mayor Elliott.
Yes.
Council Kennedy.
Yes.
Council Leahy. Council Martin.
Yes.
7 yeas.
7 yeas. Moving on to ordinances from the city manager. First, this is an ordinance before us to amend Chapter 150 entitled Fees in the Police Department. This is the first reading. This has to go to a public hearing. Entertain a motion to set a public hearing on May 26th at 7 p.m. by Councilor Rourke, seconded by Councilor Samaras. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed, motion passes. This will go to a public hearing on the 26th. Moving on to reports, we completed the Auditor and Clerk Oversight Subcommittee report. We'll move on to the next subcommittee that was held this evening. That was Youth Services. Chair would like to recognize the chairman of that subcommittee, Chairman Samaras.
Thank you, Mayor Elliott. Tonight's meeting on youth services was about summer jobs for our young adults and children. And I want to thank Assistant City Manager for the help in bringing this together. We had Superintendent Taylor, who was available, who talked about the Student Police Academy at Lowell High School, which has over 240 students. We talked about safety initiatives, career center, park department jobs that they've been able to offer to young adults of some 50 jobs, a career center in Centerville, which offers positions for 27 youth. Then we had Mr. Bellegarde, who came in with Peter Faticanti and Caitlin Hickey, talk about 56 locations in the city right now and serving students from the age 3 to 11 and dealing with a number of crafts. They're going to hire 192 young adults to service some 1,500 children, up from 1,300 from the previous year. Sounds like an exciting program. We had Bridget Quinn representing Leslie Burke from the Career Center, talked about dealing with young adults, some 60 work sites with 290 jobs, jobs that are 25 hours a week at $9 an hour, offering young adults a great opportunity. We had Carolyn Richlow from the Lowell School Department to talk about the summer programs at the various schools for elementary, middle school, and high school. There's a plan to serve some 1,200 students in this program. We had Krista Brown from Girls Inc. to talk about a girls' career center and options of career options to offering them to young ladies, serving some 150 young ladies. We had Tressa from UTEC talk about dealing with the 16 to 24-year-olds who are proven risk people who've had either jail records or young parents have had some issue in their life, offering them a job training, and literally a future, serving 150 per year, but broken down to about 35 for this past summer. We also had Kevin Morrissey from the YMCA to talk about his program, which included swimming, field trips, literacy program for some 300 children, and about 13 sites that they were dealing with. We also had Juan Carlos Rivera from the Boys Club, talked about serving over 400 students this summer from between the ages of 7 to 18 and hiring 40 young adults to help in this endeavor. Councilor Rourke did some addition, and what these people brought forth to us, that we'd be serving over 5,000 of our youth during the summer. And if we want to make Lowell a better place, a safer place, there's no better opportunity to give students a chance to have activities and jobs to keep them off the street and keep them employed. I thought it was an impressive group that we had here tonight, and the excitement that they showed in the type of jobs that they've helped to develop for children and the type of programs that they've helped develop for our children. We should give them much credit and praise for what they've been doing. So I want to thank everybody for a great evening tonight. This information is on the Lowell website and also will be in every school in the city in regards to what potential offerings parents will have for their children. Thank you.
Thank you, Council. Further discussion on this report? Motion to accept the report as report of progress and place on file by Council Martin, second by Council Kennedy. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. It's still not 7 o'clock, so we'll move into petitions. We have one claim for personal injury. This has to go to the law department, so entertain a motion by Council Belanger, second by Councilor Samaras, to refer this to the law department for report and recommendation. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Next item on the agenda, we have another miscellaneous petition by Andrew Crowther, requests reimbursement for towing. This also has to go to the law department. Motion by Council Rourke, second by Council Milonazo, to send us to the law department for report and recommendation. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. There is a third petition. It's a miscellaneous petition. Dr. Sandra Beltran requests acquisition of abandoned land between 535 and 555 Varnum Avenue. This has been before us in the past. They're registered. Mr. Clerk, are the individuals registered to speak?
Yes. Louisa Varnum?
Good evening, Mayor Elliott, City Councilor, City Manager Murphy, and everyone else. My name is Louisa Varnum. I reside at 55 Varnum Terrace in Lowell in Pawtucketville. I am the clerk of the Woodbine Cemetery Corporation on West Meadow Road. This cemetery abuts the land that is the subject of tonight's petition. The cemetery dates back to the early 1800s, but it's still in active use and it is privately owned and operated. The city contributes no maintenance funds or any other kind of funds to this cemetery. I'm speaking in opposition to the petition by Sandra Beltran of 535 Varnum Avenue. Her petition that a portion of a private way called Woodbine Ave be transferred to her for her sole private ownership and use. She refers to the land in her letter as abandoned property, but I refute that as being the case. Woodbine Ave was laid out by my grandfather, Thomas Varnum, in 1912. He bought the property at 557 Varnum Avenue, which at that time was a single-family home, for the express purpose of creating an access to the undeveloped land to the rear of the Woodbine Cemetery in order to expand its size. Today, there still exists 8,899 square feet of undeveloped land at the rear of the cemetery, for which Woodbine Ave is the only access. In the earlier days, they didn't expect that machinery would be used for digging graves, and so they did not leave large driveways in between the areas of the cemetery the way they might today. New space will be needed in this generation for burial plots. Rather than being abandoned property, I would say that my grandfather's foresight and vision of expanding the cemetery by creating new access is about to need to be fulfilled. It should not be a concern of abutters whether or when a parcel is developed, and lack of development does not indicate abandonment. To support the legal existence of Woodbine Ave, I will inform you of an agreement made between Thomas Varnum and the city of Lowell. Within a few years of the creation of Woodbine Ave, the city of Lowell took 59 acres on West Meadow Road from Thomas Varnum's Hawk Valley Farm, just north of the cemetery, where today the Pawtucket Memorial and Wang schools and ball fields are. The city wanted to build an isolation hospital for those who contracted TB and other diseases from working in the mills. I have a copy of the deed from Thomas Varnum to the city of Lowell, dated November 15th, 1917, which refers to Plan Book 33, Plan 13. On page 3 of the deed is a sentence that reads, and I'm quoting, "A strip of the above described, excuse me, a strip of the above described land, part of the 59 acres, 50 feet in width running from West Meadow Road westerly and southerly along the Woodbine Cemetery to land of Lorenzo A. Ayer is to be forever kept open for a street as shown on said plan. By this deed, the city acquired ownership of the northerly 15,000 square feet of Woodbine Ave. But the lower 15,000 square feet of Woodbine Ave at the Varnum Avenue end remained in Thomas Varnum's ownership and I believe was transferred to the Woodbine Cemetery Incorporated. This lower portion is the property that is the subject of the Beltran petition. I am opposed to any declaration of abandonment or transfer of ownership of any portion of Woodbine Avenue. It would create a hardship for the continuation of Woodbine Cemetery, since the cemetery relies on Woodbine Ave for future access to the undeveloped portion. The cemetery needs the sale of new lots to generate the revenue needed for the upkeep of the entire cemetery in the future. I also believe that the city does not own the lower portion of Woodbine Ave, and it is therefore not something the city can legally decide to dispose of. I urge the council to take action that will protect Woodbine Ave from future requests of acquisition or encroachment. Thank you for your consideration of this matter. I do have some copies of the deed and a partial of the deed and the plot plan to enter into the record.
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you
you.
very much, Ms. Varnum.
John Hamblett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, councilors, Mr. City Manager. My name is John Hamblett. I reside at 495 Varnum Avenue, and I'm co-chair of the Pawtucketville Citizens Council. If some of this sounds familiar, it's because we addressed a similar petition before this council on July 22nd of last year. We oppose this petition. Whether it's privately owned or whether it's owned by the city makes no difference to us. If it's privately owned, as Ms. Varnum says, then it's not the matter of this council. If it is owned by the city, you have already taken action 5 times to protect this property. In 2003, in Section 3.1.10 of the master plan, you clearly delineated the greenway system that this represents. It is a pathway from the state forest down across Varnum Avenue through Hawk Valley Farm to the Merrimack River. In 2006, this specific property was referred to in the Pawtucketville Master Plan, which this city council unanimously approved. In 2009, the Lowell City Council agreed to a conservation restriction with Lowell Parks and Conservation Trust, and it specified that this path would remain open. And in 2005, there was an open space plan that delineated Woodbine Avenue. Adding those 4 to the information that Ms. Varnum has brought forward, you have taken action 5 times to keep this open. We believe it is in the public good to leave this open to the forest and to the river, and we are asking that you keep the property open and oppose this petition. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hamlet. Anyone else ready to speak, Mr. Clerk?
No.
That's it? Okay. Discussion by the members of the council. Motion to refer this to the law department for report and recommendation.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Kennedy, and then Councilor Martin.
Was this matter previously referred to the law department?
Madam Solicitor?
Back many months ago?
My understanding is that it was. This is not the first time that this has been on the agenda.
That's correct. There was an opinion from the law department, and there was discussion of referring it to the planning board for further possible action. It's my understanding that there was no further action. However, I don't believe that at the time some of the information that was brought to light at tonight's meeting was ever considered, and we'd like an opportunity to review the materials that were submitted this evening as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Martin?
Thanks. I just asked the law department in its report to see, what action the council can take to finalize this. I mean, it's been here now a few times and seems to keep coming back. These folks are coming down. The petitioner, I don't know if the petitioner's not here tonight, but has been here in the past. So I think it would be in everybody's interest for us to establish whether this is a public way or whether it's just a protected easement way, so that we're not, every few months considering a new petition for the same thing that's already been decided. So.
Thank you, Council. Further discussion or questions on this? Was there a motion?
No, not yet.
A motion to refer this to the law department by Councilor Kennedy, second by Councilor Martin. All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Being after 7 o'clock, we will jump back to, that concludes all the petitions. When we return, we have 2 city council motions. But before us, there is a general public hearing for an ordinance to amend Chapter 266-47 Vehicles and Traffic in the Rosemont neighborhood. This has been given 2 readings. I will now open up this portion of the public hearing for anyone wishing to speak in favor of this motion. Amendment to the Vehicles and Traffic Ordinance. Anyone wishing to speak in favor? Anyone wishing to speak in favor? Seeing none, we will close that portion of the public hearing. We'll now open up this portion of the public hearing for anyone wishing to speak in opposition. Is there anyone here wishing to speak in opposition at this point in the public hearing? Seeing none, we will close this portion of the public hearing. What is the wish of the body on this ordinance? Motion to, this has to go to the wire inspector for report and recommendation. No, it does not. We already closed that, so this requires a roll call motion. Motion to approve by Councilor Belanger, second by Councilor Milanazzo. Roll call.
Council Mercia. Council Milanazzo.
Yes.
Council Rourke.
Yes.
Council Samaras.
Yes.
Council Belanger.
Yes.
Mayor Elliott.
Yes.
Council Kennedy.
Yes.
Council Leahy. Council Martin.
Yes.
7 yeas.
Thank you. Next item, we have publicized a public hearing for National Grid, and this is for a request to install 2 poles, 1 transformer, and overhead conductor at 94 Canada Street. That's a second reading. This has already been read once. We'll now proceed into the public hearing and open up the public hearing for anyone who is wishing to speak in favor of this. Could you just please give us your name, organization, and address?
Yes, Sam Eng, National Grid, North Andover.
Okay.
Yep. As you said, Mr. Mayor, we're just looking to install 2 poles to get service to a customer on 94 Canada Street.
94 Canada Street?
Yep.
Okay. Any questions for the representative from National Grid? Yes. Could I kindly ask you, for the people at home, so you can come to the podium and speak into the microphone?
My name is Betty Guy, and I live at 33 Main Street, and I got a letter from the City Hall that said he wanted to put 2 poles at 33 Main Street for service for 94 Canada Street. I mean, I took pictures, there's poles, plenty of poles to service here, coming different ways. So I have, it boggles my mind logistically why you would even consider putting the poles on my property.
That's a good question. Do you have an answer for this resident of Main Street?
Given the distance that this customer would like his service, it would be impossible to reach it from the pole that's existing there now.
However,
Okay.
I believe this is the building you want to service, correct?
Correct.
Okay,
Oh, no, it's actually a customer at this lot over here.
okay, back there. Everybody see? Okay, so it's back.
So can I suggest something? Can I suggest that we hold on this for a week and that we refer this to the city manager and that your concern, the neighborhood concerns are addressed before we approve this and we put any more poles in,
The thing is,
Okay.
the pole, there are poles along this building now.
right?
There are also poles in back of this building along the unused railroad tracks.
Right, okay. So the manager would like for you, or for him to be able to sit down with the wire inspector and come up with a recommendation before we proceed with this. So we'll be in touch with you, with your organization to, to sort this out and address the neighbors' concerns, if that's okay. Is that okay with folks?
I mean, it just doesn't make sense to.
Okay. I think this is why we need a meeting with the representatives. Is that okay with members of Council Kennedy?
Just a point of order, are you going to close the public hearing this evening?
Yeah, yes, correct. So folks, we're still in the public hearing, so we'll close the public hearing and then we'll make a recommendation. Thank you, Council, you're right. We'll make a recommendation to refer this to the city manager and the wire inspector to iron this out. This has to come back anyway, so nothing's going to be resolved tonight till they address your concerns. Okay, makes sense? Anyone else? So you weren't speaking in favor. So we're still in the part of anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this right now? In favor? In favor, seeing none, we'll close that portion of the public hearing. Is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition? I think you've registered your concerns. Could I just ask you for your name and address for the record?
The last name is Guy. I'm a girl, but I'm a guy. G-U-Y.
You're a girl. First name?
Elizabeth.
Elizabeth Guy. And what was your address? 90.
Where they want to put the poles, 33 Main Street
Okay,
in
great.
Lowell.
Okay,
Do you
great.
need this?
All set, Mr. Clerk, you got that?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition to this? Seeing none, we'll close that portion of the public hearing as well. Motion to refer this to the city manager and the wire inspector for report and recommendation by Councilman Milanazo, seconded by Councilor Rourke. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed, this will come back to the city council in 1 week's time. We have one more public hearing for National Grid. Request installation of 40 feet plus or minus of PVC conduit from Riverside Street to the property line of 84 University Ave. That being the second reading. We will now open up this portion of the public hearing for anyone wishing to speak in favor.
National Grid would like to install conduit. I believe this is for UMass Lowell. They're installing a 3-phase service to their new 84 University Ave property.
Okay. Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor? In favor? Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Seeing none, we'll close that portion of the public hearing. Is there anyone else? We will now open up this portion of the public hearing for anyone wishing to speak in opposition. Is there anyone in opposition to this installation of PVC conduit at this location? Seeing none, we will close that portion of the public hearing as well for those wishing to speak in opposition. This also has to go to the wire inspector for a report and recommendation. Councilman Milanazo on this?
Yes, thank you. On the report, we do have a communication from Robert Bradley, who is the project manager at UMass Lowell, and I believe there's a new address, 72 University Avenue as opposed to 84. Just want to make sure that gets into the record. It appears that it's 72 and not 84 University Avenue. And then we have a communication from the university as well from Adam Bakey, just wants to be recorded in favor. But I would refer this to the wire inspector, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman Malinazzo. We'll enter those items into the record. Further comment, question, discussion on this item? Entertain a motion to refer this as well to the wire inspector for a week for a report and recommendation.
No, not yet.
Motion by Council Rourke, seconded by Council Samaras. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? That motion passes, goes to the wire inspector. We'll be back here in a week. That concludes the public hearing section of the meeting. We will now revert back to City Council motions.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor.
I'm sorry, Councilor Rourke?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Before we get to the motions, I'd like to request a suspension of the rules for a moment of silence, please.
Okay, motion by Councilor Rourke to suspend the rules for a moment of silence in darkened chambers. Seconded by Councilor Malinazzo. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. The suspension is in effect. Councilor Rourke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I apologize for not doing it at the
No,
beginning
it's
of the
okay.
meeting.
We know we were a little, we wanted to do this for Mrs. Zaharoulis'
I do
his
request
wife.
a suspension of the rules and moment of silence in darkened chambers for Gianula Joanne Zaharoulis, who passed away on May 6th. She was the daughter of the late Antonios and Heredia Paparisis. Joanne was born in February 1944 and moved to the United States with her family in 1954. She was also the wife of George the Bear Zaharoulis, whom together formed a very well-known Lowell couple. Mrs. Zaharoulis was survived by 2 sisters and 4 sons, George, Anthony, Stephen, and Michael, as well as grandchildren, many nieces, nephews, cousins, and close friends. Mrs. Zaharoulis was a Lowell High graduate, also graduated from Middlesex Community College and Fitchburg State University. She was an active member of the Holy Trinity Greek Orthodox Church in Lowell, and she had also worked as a paraprofessional and also as a special education teacher for the Lowell school system. She will be sorely missed by many. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Council. Thank you for doing that. Could we all please rise for a moment of silence and darken chambers? May she rest in peace.
Mr. Mayor?
Council Malinazzo.
Thank you. While we're under suspension, if I could just speak on a point of personal privilege, I'd like to thank my colleagues for their expressions of support and kindness last week over the passing of my dad. So I just want to say thank you, and it meant a lot to my family and to me, and I appreciate you all being there for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Council. It was a wonderful service, and your father was a wonderful person, so we'll be in our thoughts and our prayers. We appreciate it. Further discussion under suspension? Seeing none, we'll move on to the City Council motion section of the agenda. First motion of the evening by Council Kennedy. Request City Manager have proper department explore relocating crosswalk in front of St. Anthony's Parish and back central neighborhood to line up with the parish hall. Seconded by Council Belanger. Council Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the city manager. Mr. Manager, this motion is by request, and I guess where the crosswalk is now, which is that it meets the corner of Floyd Street on the opposite side of the street. The location has made the crosswalk somewhat dysfunctional. And it would be a lot better, I'm told, if it were a little bit further down the street so that it lined up. Because what's happening now is people aren't bothering to walk down the street to the crosswalk. They're just crossing back Central Street, so nobody's using the crosswalk. Whereas if it can be moved a little bit, then people will use it. Thank you.
Thank you, Council. Makes sense. Further discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. The second and last motion of the evening by Council Leahy, who's with his family tonight. Request City Manager to get a report from the Neighborhood Service Department regarding update on the status of fire-damaged buildings located throughout various neighborhoods.
Second.
Second by Councilor Kennedy. I did speak with Councilor Leahy about this, and he's just looking for an update on the status of that motion and a report on fire-damaged buildings. And that was it. That's all he asked me to mention. Further discussion on this? Seeing none. All those in favor of this motion signify by saying aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. That concludes the business before the City Council this evening. Entertain a motion to adjourn. Councilor Kennedy, seconded by Councilor Martin. All those in favor signify by saying aye. And the opposed? That motion carries. This meeting stands adjourned.